What is going on, everyone? Nico Lintz here again in the beautiful Bahamas on the beautiful Bahama 41. Just look at that beautiful white sand beach, the clear water. Just an absolutely unreal day, but we're at the beach today because I'm going to show you guys how to properly anchor your boat at the beach using both a bow anchor and a stern anchor. And it's a much better way to anchor your boat at the beach. One, it keeps your bow into the wave, but also two, pretty much every boat has a ladder, boarding ladder on the transom or somewhere near the aft end of the boat. And so it makes it much easier for your guests to get up on board, so they're not having to swim out around the boat to get to the boarding ladder in the back. It's just a really good way to anchor the boat at the beach. Easy in, easy out. You can pull the boat in super shallow. It's just a really awesome way to do it. And so last week I posted a video about how to anchor a boat using just the bow anchor, in a regular scenario in anchorage, just anchoring anywhere. And so I am going to highly recommend that you guys watch that video first. I'm going to go ahead and put it on the top of the screen right now. That talks about what the proper anchor to have, the proper anchor chain, anchor rode, how much anchor rode to put out for a given depth. That video handles all of the details on how to actually anchor a boat. And so I'm not going to reiterate all of those details when we go to set the bow anchor here, because they all do hold true for that. Instead, just go watch that video. It'll make this video make a whole lot more sense and give you guys a better educational experience. And something real quick, and I say this in every video, but if you guys like the Bahamas, if you like boats like this, if you like all of this stuff, please subscribe to the channel. It's a huge help to me. It lets me know that you guys actually like the content that I'm producing for you guys. Liking the video really helps as well. And then comment below what you want to see. I make these videos for you guys to enjoy. If I know what y'all want to see, it's a better environment for everyone. I know what to make. You guys enjoy the videos I give you, and it's a win-win. But enough of that. Let's go learn how to anchor at the beach using the stern anchor. All right, so the first step, as simple as it sounds, is finding the right beach to pull the boat up to and anchor with your stern to the beach. And it sounds simple, but a lot of beaches you can't do that. The first criteria is you want it to be a calm beach. This is the Treasure Key Beach, where it's very protected. There's literally no waves, as you guys can see. And so this is the perfect beach to do it, where I can anchor the boat, I can get it right up to the beach. There's really no risk of any breaking waves or swells coming in, really pushing the boat up on the sand and making a drag anchor. Once it's anchored, you can float around on your back all day. It's that calm. And so you want a nice calm beach like that, but you also want one that's deep enough and has deep enough water all the way up to the beach to where you can really get the boat, as close to the beach as you want. If it's a beach that has, a 1 foot deep flat for 200 yards off the beach, it goes without saying, you're really not going to be able to get your boat very close to that beach. And so make sure it's the right beach for pulling your boat up to. It's deep enough where you can get your boat up there safely without hitting any motors or running gear. Obviously, we're in a outboard power boat. This is our Bahama 41. And so we can, crank up the trim on the motors and get into some pretty shallow water. And so this video is going to be a little bit more tailored to the center consoles with the outboard motors, because for the most part, these are the type of boats that people are pulling up super close to the beach. But if you are in an inboard boat, this video still is useful. You're just not going to be able to get as close to the beach as we're getting in these big outboard powered boats. All right, so real quick, getting into the theory of how it works before we actually do it, so that you guys really understand exactly what I'm doing. First, you have to set your bow anchor, and that process is going to be very similar to the process I showed you guys in last week's video, which is the video I told you guys to watch before you watch this video. With the major difference being in that video, once I set the bow anchor or put it out into the water, I was letting the wind take me back to make that bow line taut to where I could tie it off, and then the force of the weight of the boat being pushed by the wind sets that anchor into the sand. In this situation, you can't really do that because you don't always know if the wind's going to push you into the beach. More often than not, it's probably going to be pushing you away from the beach. And so in this situation, once we drop the bow anchor into the water, you actually have to motor the boat in reverse towards the beach. And so it's very much easier to do this with two people. When we do it, I have Melly up here holding the anchor line after I put it out. I'll go ahead and put the boat in reverse, head towards the beach, and then once I get to where I want to go, I put the boat in neutral, maybe a shot of forward just to kill all the momentum going back. and then I'll have Melly tie up that bow anchor. And so that bow anchor is set. It's done. And so very quickly after that's done, I'm going to have the stern anchor ready, which I'm going to go into the stern anchor here in a second and what you should look for, what you should have, and how you should have it ready. But that stern anchor is going to be ready and already tied off to one of the stern cleats. And so at that point, I'm going to go to the back and I'm going to throw that stern anchor out. And so at that point, we have both the bow anchor set and the stern anchor set. However, that stern anchor, you know, we just threw it next to the boat. There's not enough scope to really hold the boat. It's just going to drag. Or if you leave a long enough line, you know, your boat's going to swing out and not really be in that spot where you left it. So basically what you do in that situation is once you throw that anchor out, have somebody on the boat who's ready to get in the water, pick up that anchor and just walk it or swim it up onto the beach and hold it on the beach. It's the easiest way to do it. There's a couple of different ways to do it, but doing it that way guarantees the anchor is going to be exactly where you put it. The boat's going to be exactly where you want it to be. And you can really fine tune things to a much easier extent. And I know this might sound a little bit confusing talking about it, but I am going to go over this and show you guys in real time exactly what I'm doing. So this is all going to make a whole lot of sense, but let's go talk about that stern anchor for a little bit. All right, so we're back in the transom now, and we're taking a look at the stern anchor. And so you can see our stern anchor here is a Fortress FX7. As y'all saw in the last video, the anchor up there I believe is an FX23, and so this is a significantly smaller anchor. And so for this, there's really no set size on how big your stern anchor should be. My answer to how big it should be would be two answers. The first of which is as big as you can safely store. Now, it does not have to be as big as your bow anchor. Your bow anchor is always, for the most part, going to be taking a little bit more of the force, but should be as big up to that size as you can safely store and use. But you also have to look at your individual uses. You know, for us, this little FX7 does the job just fine because literally the only time this anchor ever gets used is stuff like this, to where the anchor itself is pretty much up on dry land, just holding the boat, you know, in close to the beach. And so it's not like we're anchoring in, you know, 10 feet of water with the stern anchor. The stern anchor is never holding a lot of, you know, force, upward force whatsoever. You know, when the anchor is up on the beach, the line is literally parallel from the back of the boat to the anchor. So it's getting pulled back into the sand regardless. So for the stern anchor sizing, assess how you're going to use it. You know, if you're going to use it in deeper water, yeah, you're going to want to get a bigger stern anchor. For us, on doing how we do it in the Bahamas with shallow water, pretty much just keeping the stern to a beach, we can get away with this little stern anchor, and also it's a really compact size that stores well in the boat. But everything else, so in the last video, rewind here real quick. In the last video last week, again, I told you to watch before you watch this, I went over the proper anchor setup with chain and anchor rode and all that. Again, because it's a stern anchor, the setup does not have to be quite as beefy, but a couple of things do have to still stay the same. The first of which is anchor chain. Again, I highly recommend stainless anchor chain, but you need anchor chain. That's what keeps that shank of the anchor down and pulls those forks into the sand. Do not just attach a rope to an anchor. Your anchor is not going to be very effective if you do that. You can see here, I believe we have 10 feet of anchor chain. And so as I mentioned in the last video, I have found for our needs anywhere between 10 to 12 feet of anchor chain suits our needs just fine. And past that, you have your anchor rod. And of course, since this kind of gets thrown into a storage compartment, for us it's this one, we coil this up. It's not like it's, you know, tied into a compartment or anything like this. And because, again, this one is just used for holding us to a beach, it's not a very long line. I want to say this is only 150 feet, which for a main anchor line on a big 41-foot boat like this would not be very long whatsoever. But for our uses, we can get away with a short anchor rod. You know, if you are going to be, your boat's going to be a little bit further out from the beach, maybe in some deeper water, probably a good idea to have a little bit longer anchor rod. But that's pretty much what you're looking for in a stern anchor. As big of an anchor as you can safely hold that does the job you need it to do. 10 to 12 feet of anchor chain, and then enough anchor rod to do the mission you are trying to do. Again, this is not the bow anchor. This is not the primary anchor. It does not have to be quite as beefy as that anchor. And again, this is our use. Your use might differ a little bit, but that's a good generalization. All right, so when you're anchoring this way with the stern to the beach, everything has to be done in a pretty timely manner, you know, pretty quick. And so I get everything ready beforehand, which means forward. I have the harness off the anchor is ready to go. I have my shower mat here to protect the fiberglass, which I talked about in that last video. Watch that if you want to know what that's for. And then I also have my cleat up so that the line's ready to wrap around there and be tied off. And then here on the transom, I have my stern anchor ready to go, ready to be thrown in. I have the line laid out nicely so that when I throw this in, this line is just gonna pick up and gonna lay out in the water nicely, and there's gonna be no knots, no tangles, or nothing like that. And so how I do this is I take the back end of this anchor line and I go ahead and already tie it to the cleat here. And so what that does is just a safety measure. It prevents, you know, that anchor from getting away from me, or if there's wind, the boat from swinging around too much, and, you know, to a point where that anchor line just flies completely off the boat, which is the last thing that you want. Just tie the end of that line there too. And as you guys are about to see, when at the beach, I always err on the side of way too much anchor line, because the last thing you want at the beach is one of your anchors dragging and either having your boat end up over on the beach or going sideways into another beach. And so when I'm at the beach and I walk this anchor all the way to the sand, I use up all of this anchor line, which you guys are about to see, but that's the theory of it. We have everything set up, we're ready to go. And so first, let's go ahead and get on into it. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna find the section of beach that we want to anchor at. And so this is where we're going. It's a beautiful white sand section. You can see that little like black speck on the beach. That's kind of what we're gonna aim for to get right behind there. And so the first step is gonna be setting your boat up so when you drop your stern anchor, you have room to go in reverse to that spot over there and have more than enough anchor rode out on the front end to tie off and safely have that boat anchored with the bow anchor, which again, I go into all this in the last video about how much line you need and how you should probably err on too much line. Watch that video. I keep talking about it, but it really puts all of this stuff into context. But enough blabbing. Let's go ahead and give you guys a real world example and do this thing. Oh, and something to mention too, real quick before we do it, is I'm gonna be hopping in the water to bring this anchor into the beach. It's the easiest way to do it. So I am gonna be swimming, I am gonna be shirtless, so cover the girlfriends and wives' eyes if you don't wanna make them jealous. I don't think my wife liked that joke too much. That's a no. But I'm gonna put the chest cam on so you guys can see me running around, see me jumping in the water, the whole 9 yards. It's gonna be good. All right, so we moved a little bit further down the beach this way just to get out of the wind a little bit. So we're kind of here by the Bahama Beach Club. We're gonna aim to anchor right in front of that pink building there. So now I'm just situating the boat so I'm far enough away from the beach where I have space to drop the anchor and then reverse my way into the beach. All right, so I have the boat situated now with the bow out and away from the dock, with enough space so we can drop the anchor there and then back the boat up, and there will be enough anchor line out to hold the boat. And so let's get you on the chest mount and go to town. All right, so we are where we are. So because I'm a nice husband, I'm gonna come up here and drop this anchor in the water for my wife. So let's do that. Again, watch the other video if you want to see how to properly do this. All right, so I have it looped around that cleat, and Mellie's just gonna let this anchor line out as I reverse until I tell her to tie it off. And so, as you can see, we're already drifting back a little bit, and I am now gonna start to go in reverse up to where I wanna go. And I am watching the depth. I have 4 feet below the boat right now. And so we're getting in close to the beach. I'm gonna trim the motors up a touch, you know, just to make sure I don't hit those motors on any rocks or the sand or anything. So I have the boat pretty close into the beach right now. I'm gonna go a little bit further back. And so I have it basically where I want it right now. I'm giving it a shot of forward to stop all forward momentum. And so tie it off, Mellie. And so now that we're here, I'm gonna have her tie it off tight right here. So I'm just doing it for her so I can show you guys what I'm doing. It's tight. And so this is where things have to start happening in a pretty timely fashion. I actually rode that anchor in the water, and because I set up this anchor line pays out super, super nice. And so next I'm gonna turn the motors off, to be safe. Motors are off. Open the door so I can get back in. And then I'm actually gonna get in the water and carry that anchor all the way up to the beach and pull the boat where I want it. So let's do that. All right. I don't know how good the audio is now, but as you can see, I have the anchor. I'm up in the shallow water here. And now I'm just pulling the boat till it gets into where I need it to go. And so if you set that bow anchor correctly, when you go to pull this, that bow anchor line is going to get tight right in the spot where you want the boat to go. I can just drop that anchor, take it in the sand a little bit, and then as the wind pushes that boat out, it'll pull this anchor into the sand. See? All right, so as you can see, the process itself, it's not very hard. It just takes a little bit of practice. Again, you know, you and whoever's on the boat with you most of the time, go through it a couple times, do it, get it down, because timing does matter in this one. You know, you have to drop the stern anchor with enough time to get in the water and bring it to the beach to where you can stand and actually pull it, because if you're trying to swim, you're not going to be able to fight against, you know, a big 20,000 pound boat. It just doesn't work that way. And so that's how it's done. It's not hard at all, but we're gonna enjoy the water a little bit here, and then we're gonna get it up. I'm gonna show you guys how I, do this, put both anchors up. It's very easy. There's really, pulling them up doesn't have much of a timely aspect to it, but I'll catch up with you guys in a little bit. All right, so we had our fun here at the beach, and before we head out, please just take a moment to appreciate this clear water, white sand, how close we can get the boat to the beach here. Treasure Key in the Abacos in the Bahamas, the nicest beach and the nicest water around it you will ever see in your life. Highly, highly recommend it. But that's about it for us at the beach. We're gonna go ahead and get out of here. I'm gonna show you how we do that. It's very easy. Basically, I'm gonna go up to the beach, grab that stern anchor and swim it back to the boat. It doesn't have to be speed, or it doesn't have to be fast. It can be pretty nonchalant because we have the bow anchor here that keeps the boat from going too far into the beach. And so once I pick that stern anchor up, this boat just kind of swing out and go alongside the beach out into deeper water, which is fine. You know, I'm holding a rope, an anchor line attached to the boat, so it's just going to pull me along with the boat. And so then once I do that, I'll get the stern anchor in the boat, get that all tidied away, and then start the motors, get the bow anchor in, and then we're ready to go. So I'm going to set the camera up so y'all can see me getting the stern anchor, and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Then we'll get the bow anchor and we'll be out of here. What? The what?
What about the bow one?
Oof, all right, so the stern anchor's in, and as you can see, the boat is just calmly kind of pivoting around the anchor, going out from the beach. So there's really no harm of us going back into the beach. And then once this is done, we're just gonna go ahead and pull this bow anchor in, and then we're good to go. And so it's a pretty easy process. Again, when it comes to retrieving the bow anchor, watch that earlier anchoring video. I go into the how-tos, the in-depth, the exacts on what to do, but it's pretty straightforward. All right, so that's about it. I hope after watching that video, you guys can safely say that you know how to now dock a boat at the beach using a stern anchor. You can see it's not a very hard process. Definitely takes a little bit of practice, takes a little bit of know-how, and takes the, having the right equipment on the boat, as in the right stern anchor, a stern anchor period. And then also a little bit of, common sense to know where you can and can't be doing that. But that's about it. This is going to wrap up the 2-part series on anchoring your boat. I will have one more video that will be kind of, along with this video. It's docking using a stern anchor, but that won't be for a little bit. But that's about it.
Enjoy the video.
Absolutely. And I do want to say one thing quickly. We have a video idea that we're thinking about doing. You tell me if you want to see it. Teaching my wife how to drive a $1 million center console with this Bahama. Melly is all down for it. I think it'd be a funny video. You guys please tell me if you'd enjoy it, because I think it could be pretty good. Could get pretty expensive. Who knows? But I think it'd be, hey, I have faith in you. Don't worry. But that's about it. Subscribe to the channel. Like the video. Comment down below what you want to see.
Yes.
And we'll see you in the next video.